people get their money back and they're like looking at $100,000 Bitcoin. So what are they going to do? It's like you either stay out or you suck it up and you buy Bitcoin at higher. So I'm thinking we could it could be an interesting cycle or two here coming up, because we might get to see breaking the gold parity, taking some of the shine off gold, and disproving the diminishing return theory to the upside. People have been talking about diminishing return theory because the increase in Bitcoin cycle to cycle was lower between the previous two. And I argue two reasons why that should not necessarily be the case in this cycle or the next one, which is that firstly, the previous cycle was disrupted by a lot of stuff.
아담백은 영국 출신의 암호학자이자 블록체인과 비트코인 기술의 역사에서 중요한 역할을 한 인물 중 하나입니다. 그는 비트코인 창시자인 사토시 나카모토의 백서에서 언급된 유일한 인물로 잘 알려져 있습니다. 아담백은 비트코인은 디지털 희소성의 구현이며 통화 정책의 독립적인 자산이라고 강조합니다. 그는 정부 통제를 받지 않는 사적 디지털 자산의 중요성을 줄곧 주장해오며 탈중앙화를 강하게 지지하는 인물이죠. 이런 그가 비트코인이 사이클마다 상승폭이 줄어든다는 수익 체감 이론에 대해서 얘기합니다. 그리고 기간의 지니까 네트워크 효과로 비트코인의 상승 근거에 대한 전망을 내놓습니다.
People have been talking about diminishing return theory because the increase in Bitcoin cycle to cycle was lower between the previous two. And I argue two reasons why that should not necessarily be the case in this cycle or the next one, which is that firstly, the previous cycle was disrupted by a lot of stuff. Firstly, the previous cycle was disrupted by a lot of stuff. The China mining ban, the COVID, the supply chain, the quantitative easing, the DeFi kind of Ponzi contagion, and that. So I'd say that the previous cycle was a kind of one-off event, and you shouldn't draw too much inference from that. And then the other thing is that technology goes through S-curve adoptions, sort of pattern, right? Where there's early adopters, it's growing slowly, and at some point you get a kind of network effect where it grows more quickly. And with Bitcoin, there are more network effects because people who are already in the network, if you're on the internet, you're only on the internet once. If you have a mobile phone, you don't need more than one or two. But with Bitcoin, people get more enthusiastic because they see other people getting involved, and then they go and buy more at a higher price. So you get the kind of network effect of people getting more conviction, I guess, right? And that's contagious, and you get more kind of utility because there are more people you can transact with, more different types of financial products and institutions you can interact with. So I'm thinking it could be an interesting cycle or two here coming up, because we might get to see breaking the gold parity, taking some of the shine off gold, and disproving the diminishing return theory to the upside. And then, of course, you've got the institutional adoption, institutions being money managers of individuals' money, right? So ultimately, it's still the individual's money. If a pension fund manager puts Bitcoin on the balance sheet, that's a long-term type of activity because it's pensions. They keep it there for 20 years. People are going to have better pensions in the future. So that's good. I mean, there's some suspicion about, institutions, suits are coming into Bitcoin, but they are just professional money managers for other people's money, right? As pension funds, mutual funds, which is people's savings plans. Most people, the average person doesn't self-manage a stock portfolio, so their savings and their pensions and life insurance is all managed by other people. So if those people clue in and buy Bitcoin, that's a form of Bitcoin adoption for the everyday person. So I think those things are not really here yet in a big way. The Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund bought 450 million, but I think it's just basis points because they've got huge funds, right? Mm-hmm. So as that does come, exactly the timing because they're slow movers, that also has a network effect because they look at each other for cues. So timing is hard, but I think this could be a tipping point for the network to start growing faster and sort of invalidate the diminishing return theory. So I think like there are a number of different models. And models don't really predict price. It's just a kind of observation, right? So there's the power law, which is diminishing. So there will be some number which, if Bitcoin goes above, they would admit that okay, the power law didn't work out. And there's another number which goes above that the stock to flow also, which is a higher number, but it's also diminishing. So if Bitcoin goes above that, that'll be an interesting indicator as well.
So I've got a few questions to queue up here, and I know I can see Eric's just burning with some topics to touch on here too. But I there's a few things I wanted to ask. Okay, so you were talking about last cycle kind of being like a one-off. There, a number of things contributing to a diminishing return that time around. You mentioned the China mining ban. Of course, there was also FTX, which was basically just taking in people's money that thought they were buying Bitcoin and not.
That was paper Bitcoin.
That was paper Bitcoin. Yeah. And what I'm curious is, what do you think had the bigger effect that cycle? The mining ban and miners having to move all their stuff all around and all that, or FTX just pretending to buy Bitcoin but buying Bahamas real estate? And in the absence of those things, where do you think we would have gone last cycle?
Well, I thought we would have gone over 100,000 easily last cycle, if not for all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the problem with the people got too cute in doing high risk stuff and selling it to average people as low risk when it wasn't. And those funds were like exposed to each other. So when one failed, it was like a real dominoes, they all fell over, right? So it's like a DeFi contagion. So I mean, some of it was CeFi, like Genesis had taken user Bitcoin from Gemini Exchange, the Earn program, and they were using it in the GBTC ARB, so the closed-ended pre-ETF thing, which had a premium. You got locked up for 12 months, later 6 months. So there was a nice ARB where you could buy or borrow Bitcoin, put it in there, and sell it at a premium 6 months later. And so Three Arrows Capital was borrowing Bitcoin from anybody who would give it to them under collateralized. And so when that turned around, you get a bear market and the premium became a discount, all that leverage trade got liquidated. Three Arrows went bankrupt. And because they were under collateralized, you bankrupted other people who bankrupted other people who bankrupted other people because they were all borrowing from each other without enough collateral. And FTX was in the mix too because they borrowed from people. And yes, actually, then the FTX money should go back. Like the bankruptcy's wound down. I think there's 16 billion of assets. So eventually people will get their money back. And I'm not sure, the FTX sold it all, right? So they sold the Bitcoin in a bear market for probably like $25,000. And now people will get their money back and they're looking at $100,000 Bitcoin. So what are they going to do? It's like, you either stay out or you suck it up and you buy Bitcoin at higher, So I think that money will find its way back into the market.
결론적으로 아담백은 비트코인 주기가 반복될수록 증가폭이 줄어든다는 수학 체감의 법칙에 대해 이번 사이클과 다음 사이클에서는 그렇지 않을 수 있다고 말합니다. 또한 비트코인은 참여하는 사람이 많을수록 네트워크 효과가 확대됨에 따라 금의 가치를 넘어설 수 있다고 말하죠. 그리고 결국 기관들이 비트코인을 구매하는 것은 모든 사람을 위한 비트코인 채택의 형태라고 얘기하며 이 또한 비트코인의 성장을 촉진시킨다는 관점을 내놓았습니다. 현재 많은 다양한 모델들이 가격을 예측하곤 하지만 일종의 관찰일 뿐 비트코인은 언제든지 예측을 넘어설 수 있으며 이 또한 지표가 될 수 있다고 합니다. 우리는 객관적인 시각으로 투자를 해야 하고 지금 당장만 보고 투자할 게 아니라 미래를 보고 투자를 해야겠죠. 010-2472-0429 전화번호로 탈개미 적어서 문자 보내주시면 2025년 비트코인과 코인 시장에 대한 분석, 정보들 공유해드리겠습니다. 현재 우리에게 중요한 것은 이러한 정보를 어떻게 활용할 것인가입니다. 지금까지 영상 시청해주셔서 감사하고요. 다음에 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.